Hey guys, Billy here. I'm a multi-gladiator hunter and this video is a guide on how you can beat the comp Rogue Mage in 2v2 Arena. I've done it in a different format this time where I've explained what to use in terms of gear, soulbinds and talents, explained certain situations with tips on what you can do, and then I've also included a clip at the end of gameplay. So let me know what you think of this style and if you enjoy it. Also, don't forget to subscribe to ensure that you won't miss out on any of the hunter content. And you can also catch me live on Twitch at twitch.tv/Billybobbs and you can join my Discord. I'll put the links to both of these in the description and I hope you enjoy the video. I'll start the video off by showing you which cooldowns you should be tracking from both the Rogue and the Mage. For Fire Mage, the one that you need to be tracking is Combustion, and then for Sub Rogue, you have a few more to track, and they will be Shadow Blades, Symbols of Death, Shadow Dance, and then for a Ventir Rogue, Flagellation, and for a Kyrian Rogue, Echoing Recommend. As for defensive cooldowns, for a Mage I would track Ice Block and Quarter Raise, and then for a Rogue I'd track Cloak of Shadows and Evasion, as these are the main cooldowns which can determine whether or not you'd be able to kill in the next go, or whether they will still have something to make them live. The talents that I recommend using are Animal Companion, Scent of Blood, Camouflage, Thrill of the Hunt, Post Haste, Stomp, and Aspect of the Beast. These are all your default talents that you'd use against almost every matchup, and you do not need Binding Shot versus Rogue Mage. And then for PvP talents, these are the three that I'd go with. Roar of Sacrifice is 100% that you need this because it completely cancels Combust and the Rogue's Opener if they use the crit legendary. Chimeral Sting is very good for either slowing the Rogue so they cannot kite you, slowing the Mage, or silencing the Mage to stop them getting a go. And then Survival Tactics is really nice, as if they leave a gap between their stuns, then it will allow you to feign death, get a huge shield, and this will most likely allow you to survive the go. As for Soulbinds, I'd recommend running General Draven, as it provides a lot of defensive bonuses, such as when you're below 40% health, you take 10% reduced damage, and then also when you are standing still for at least 4 seconds, you gain 10% increased stamina and 4% increased healing. So this means that at the end of the stun, you'll likely be below 40% health, so you'll be taking 10% less damage, and you'll also have 10% more health and 4% more healing done to you. This Soulbind is so good, especially against Rogue Mage, as they're most likely only going to kill you within stuns. So the reduced damage taken when you're low, and also standing still for 4 seconds, increasing your health, are both extremely powerful. The pet that I'd recommend using versus Rogue Mage is a River Beast, and this is because it is a tank pet, so you get 7% more health with the endurance training, and it also provides mortal wounds with the gruesome bite, and it also gives you the pet wall, which is 20% reduced damage for 6 seconds on a 3-minute cooldown. And normally versus the Rogue Mage game, you'll only get to use this once, so the cooldown doesn't really matter. I'd also recommend using an Emblem Trinket, as this will increase your health by 11,000, and this scales with Exhilaration, as Exil heals you for 30% of your max health. So if you pop Emblem and then Exil, it will do more healing because you'll have a higher total health pool. This means that if you manage to use an Emblem Trinket before their go, you'll have a higher health pool, so you're not likely to die within the go, and then after the go, you're able to just use Exhilaration, and because it's healing you for a lot more, it's likely that your healer will not have to use any more cooldowns, and you'll be able to save Turtle, Feign Death, and the Pet Wall. However, the one thing to be aware of is that when the BM ends, you will lose the extra health, so you just need to make sure that you're not too low when the emblem is falling. Next, I'll talk about who the kill target should be when you're facing Rogue Mage. If you're playing with a priest healer, I'd recommend going for the mage, because the priest can master spell the block, and they can also purge all of the mage's shields, which makes them a lot squishier and they'll actually die. However, if you're playing with a Residruid, say, or another DPS, I'd recommend killing the rogue. This is because after the rogues uses evasion and Cloak of Shadows, they're extremely squishy. And you also don't have a master spell for the block, and if say you're playing with a Residruid, they also cannot purge the shields. This means that overall the rogue will be the squishier target, and they will just die. Also, a thing to note is that if the rogue is kiting you really well, and the mage is just sitting there hitting you, you can do damage to the mage, as they can't really heal aside from their shields. So hitting anything you can is better than chasing something if they're just kiting you, and you cannot connect. As for the opener against Rogue Mage, it is ideal if you can find the rogue with a flare and then get him in combat and put a mark on him so that he cannot sap you or your healer or get a restart. However, if you're unable to find him or if your camouflage is running out, then it is worth opening on the mage just to start getting pressure and damage out. It's also important to try and not line your healer, as if they decide to go your healer, then you'll not be able to use Roar of Sack if your pet is out of line of the target. As for CC, it's important to try and always trap the target which you are not hitting whenever you can. And if you're playing with a class that can stun, for example a Holy Priest, then you can use their stun to stun the main target, and you use your stun on the target that you want to trap. However, if you're playing with a class that cannot stun, for example a Disc Priest, then you want to use your stun on the main target and then just try and get the trap without a stun. This is because you'll need the stun for the main target so they cannot kite your go. As for slows, you always want to slow on your main target, and then whenever you can, you also want to use Trank Shot to purge the mage's shields. If you can consistently land CC against Rogue Mage, it's going to make their pressure a lot less, especially if you manage to land a CC whilst your healer is in CC, as then they'll either have the Trinket to continue playing offensive, or they'll sit the CC and therefore you'll survive the go. Now I'll just be giving you some general tips on when fighting Rogue Mage. And firstly, the most important tip is to always be trying to do some damage. For example, if you're playing with a Wrestle Druid and you're going on the Rogue, but the Rogue is on the other side of the map and the Mage is rooting you, slowing you, polying you, then you can just turn and hit the Mage and make them play more defensively and make the Rogue come back in. This is extremely important to know, as if you try and chase the Rogue the entire game and they're just kiting you, you will not do any damage and they're just playing time to wait so that they can get their cooldowns back so that they can kill you in another go. So it's always important to be doing damage and playing offensively, because if you play defensively, after enough time you will eventually lose. The second tip I can give you is to always try and keep a Hunter's Mark on the Rogue. This is so that it will reduce the amount of restarts they get, as even if they do manage to get a restart, then you're able to use Cobra Shot or your pets, or you can tell your healer where they are, and then you'll be able to get them out of stealth. Also, if you're running the Marksman's Advantage conduit, it will mean they deal less damage to you, and the only way they can get the Hunter's Mark off is if they use Cloak of Shadows. And this is one of their major defensive cooldowns, especially versus, say, a Priest if the Priest is running mind games. The third tip which I can give you, which is going to help you survive a lot easier versus Rogue Mage, is to save Bestial Wrath for when the Mage CCs your pets. This is because if your pets are CC'd, they cannot use Roar of Sacrifice. However, Bestial Wrath removes all CCs on the pets. So, for example, if you are just opening up on the Mage doing some damage, and then the Mage uses Ring of Frost onto your pets, and you don't have kick for it, as you kick the poly, say, then you can use Bestial Wrath, get your pets out of the CC, and then you can sack yourself. And that means you'll be immune to all crits, so you'll survive their Combusco or the opener. This is extremely important, as if you don't do this, then they're almost 100% guaranteed to kill you during a single go, unless you use Trinket and then maybe even Turtle. So saving Bestial Wrath can save you from using Trinket and Turtle in a single go. This next point is mainly just general arena awareness, however it's extremely important to notice these things when fighting a Rogue Mage. And this is that if they blind your healer, it means they are likely to try and do a go on you, so you need to try and do your best to delay it as much as possible to mean that your healer is in less CC, so you have less time to have to survive their go, and you can do this in multiple ways. Firstly, you want to try and line the mage as much as possible, as if it's only the rogue on you, it's going to be a lot less scary than if the mage fully connects as well. Secondly, you should try and stop the re-CC on your healer, so the mage can get the first sheep, which will be 7 seconds, and then if you use kick on the second sheep, this means that the healer will be out and they'll have a gap where they can heal you, or they could say dispel you if you have a shackle on you, or they could use a cooldown, and often it's these heals that allow you to survive the go. You can also pre-do things, so for example you could pre-BM the rogue's stun, because if they stun your healer they are likely going to want to do a go fairly quickly, so if you pre-BM, it's 15 seconds where they will either do the go into the BM or they have to wait 15 seconds, and by which time your healer will be out of the CC. And then also when they open on you, you need to be aware, as if they pop cooldowns you can also use Survival of the Fittest, or if it's their full burst, you can also use Roar of Sacrifice. Now I'll just talk about using trinkets and when to use them. Normally your healer will want to use their trinket for their rogue's blind, as they line up perfectly, and it's normally the best time to use it as the blind is 7 seconds. And yeah, like that's normally when your healer wants to use their trinket. However, if you're completely fine during the blind, as they're playing defensively or you've kited really well, then maybe your healer will be able to sit it and then they can trinket something else. So this now leaves your trinket. And if you're playing as a human, I'd recommend using Relentless and then using the human, which is Will to Survive, and it removes stuns. I would recommend using this for when they use a big go, so you can trinket and then you can say Feign Death, or you can trinket, BM and heal, or you can trinket and, if necessary, turtle. Other good times to trinket are when they've used smoke bomb and your healer's in CC so cannot get out, or if you're fairly low and you need to get out, otherwise you'll risk dying, then it's better to trinket than just die in the stun. However, it's very, very bad if you and the healer both trinket, so this is something that's very important to communicate with your partner. However, do bear in mind that the situations I just gave are often good times to trinket. However, there is no one time where you must use your trinket, and it's all very situational, based on how the game is going, what cooldowns they've used, what cooldowns you have left, and what your healer has left. If you lose a game, then I suggest looking back on it, thinking about what you trinketed, when you trinketed, and why you trinketed, and seeing, did I need to trinket that? And if the answer is no, then try next game holding on to the trinket and trinketing at a different point and seeing if the game goes any better. This brings me on quite well to my next point, which is don't overuse. So for example, if you get smoke bombed and they pop combustion, then you want to sack yourself because it's combustion. But then also if you decide that you want to trinket when, say, there's 2 seconds left of the rogue stun, but then you're still very low, so you also need to use BM and heal, and then they get another CC on your healer, so you have to turtle as well. At this point, it would have been better to just either wait out the stun and then turtle, or to trinket and then turtle instantly, and then you've also saved yourself BM and heal. The worst thing you can do into Rogue Mage is to use too much too slowly. It's much better to use something early on than use it too late and then have to use something else as well. Here is an example of me using cooldowns early so that I didn't need to use trinket and my healer didn't need to use any cooldowns either. So I get sapped and my healer gets cheap shot into DB into a Ring of Frost. However, they missed the Ring of Frost, but I also used my pet wall early as well as Roar of Sacrifice. This meant that they weren't able to force anything else and I was completely fine throughout the whole go. And then after my healer CC had ended, he instantly gripped me, which meant that he gripped their smoke bomb. You'll also notice that I used Roar of Sacrifice before the mage combusted. That is because if I am low when the mage combusts, I will still die, even if I use Roar of Sacrifice. So therefore a lot of mages will try and hold onto their combust until you get low in the stun. And then they will combust late to guarantee that you die, or that you'll have to use a major defensive cooldown, such as Trinket or Turtle or maybe even both. Therefore it's better to use it early, as it's also useful against the rogue cooldowns. And then you'll make the mage decide if they want to combust into your sack or if he wants to save it and then not have as much pressure in the go. As a general rule, you want to sack instantly if you see the rogue popping cooldowns and you and your healer are CC'd, regardless if the mage has used combustion. That's all for this video, so thank you all for watching and I hope you enjoyed, and that you'll now have an easier time against Rogue Mage in 2s. If there are any other videos you guys would like to see, then let me know in the comments or in the Discord. Stay tuned as the next How to Beat X Class video will be out soon, and don't forget to subscribe. Have a great day, peace out.